House of Representatives resolves to investigate allegations of inefficiency against the Nigeria Railway Corporation. House moves to stop excess bank charges. And bill seeking to repeal the Nigeria Immigration and Prisons Board Act scales second reading. A very warm welcome to you and your reps. I am Victor Azo. Thank you for joining us. The House of Representatives has resolved to investigate the state of affairs in the Nigeria Railway Corporation following allegations of inefficiency. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports that the decision is sequel to a motion from the minority leader during plenary.
In the motion, the minority leader Ndudi Elumelu mentioned incidents when trains on transit with passengers experienced breakdown, citing a recent episode on 11th March 2022 when a train conveying passengers and goods from Lagos to Ibadan was said to have stopped midway due to insufficient fuel.
Points to the inability of the management to effectively conduct routine standard operation check, thereby raising serious issues about the safety and reliability of our rail services, which must be seriously investigated.
Is indicative of an underlying problem.
House members also expressed concern over allegations of ticket racketeering and hoarding by some staff of the corporation, a situation they noted as economic sabotage capable of undermining revenue generation that may affect loan repayment targets.
We later engaged the member representing Kwampang, Mikan, Shendam Federal Constituency of Plateau State, Kamsol Alphonsus Longap, to get a sense of what the investigation seeks to achieve.
There is a lot of money that is being invested and put into railway, and expectation of it is not the way it's expected to have been utilized, been functioned. Because even when I traveled from Kaduna, from Abuja to Kaduna, it wasn't a pleasant situation for me entirely. And I think we need to look into it. And Nigerians are really complaining about it. There is so much loan that have been obtained from Chinese and what have you. We are expected to utilize it in a way that Nigerians will get back what they have invested in it. So, in fact, the House, in its own wisdom, in the wisdom of the Speaker and the House entirely, we need to investigate and get to know the root of the matter so that we'll be able to assess what are we really achieving in all this money that we have been borrowing to invest in railway.
Meanwhile, in January 2020, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in a bid to stop indiscriminate deductions for transactions, issued guidelines on charges. In spite of these provisions, there are allegations that most banks in Nigeria are guilty of excessive charges. Now the House of Representatives has resolved to look into the matter.
The resolution is equal to a motion from Sergio Sugun, who alleged that deposit money banks deduct outrageous amounts on transactions carried out by customers as charges that are not statutory.
In the guise of bank charges with different descriptions, the deductions are already covered by the CBN-approved monthly account maintenance fee.
This retinue of charges, current account maintenance fee, electronic transfer fund, card maintenance, credit card charges, debit card charges, issuance of statement accounts, merchant service loans, that's even when people are being paid salaries.
House Committee on Banking and Currency was mandated to investigate the motion from Emeka Martins asking for automatic employment for graduates with first class was adopted after intense debate.
An institution does not just issue you a first class. They go through rigorous process before you are awarded a first class degree.
Pass this motion by way of a resolution so that we will send out the right messages.
If you are talking about skill, technology, you must allow voice of reasoning and force of wisdom to prevail in this circumstance.
Bureaucracies are reactionary. They don't appreciate
intellect. Yes, we encourage academic performance. We would encourage good excellence in record. But again, examination, they say, is not the best test of knowledge.
Maybe this should come by way of law so that we can streamline it. And areas of concern we can address.
Also adopted was the motion from Sada Soli appealing for the reinstatement of security personnel in areas of GBA local government of Katsina State due to security threats.
After the abrupt withdrawal of the personnel from Shimpiɗa, the people had to trek for nearly 30 kilometers to find safety. In the course of fleeing for safety, about 10 people died from exhaustion.
8 bills passed first reading, including the bill seeking the establishment of Federal Medical Center (ISA) in Sokoto State, sponsored by Mohammed Bargaja, while the bill to establish Federal Orthopedic Hospital Azari in Hau local government area of Borno State, sponsored by Haruna Mishelia, was read the third time and passed. The bills provide statutory regulations on peacekeeping operations by Nigerian security personnel, sponsored by Oluole Oke, was among the 3 that passed second reading.
Nigeria, to date, has spent over $8 billion on peacekeeping operations.
In the normal budgetary allocations, even this year, there are a certain amount of money we have allocated for peace operations.
At the Committee of the Whole, 4 bills seeking establishment of health institutions were considered and approved.
And the House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill seeking to repeal the Nigeria Immigration and Prisons Board Act. This is to enable its replacement by the Civil Defense Corps, Correctional, Federal Fire and Immigration Services Act.
The executive bill seeks to bring 4 agencies in the Ministry of Interior under a single governing board in order to conform with public service regulations. The agencies are the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, Nigeria Immigration, Correctional and Federal Fire Services.
To provide for policy direction to the Corps and services and appoint, promote and exercise disciplinary control.
2 bills forwarded from the Senate for concurrence also passed second reading. House members passed a resolution to investigate issues surrounding concession agreements on Garki General Hospital between the Federal Capital Territory and Nisa Premier Hospital.
FCT administration on 1st of March 2022 gave the management of the hospital notice to vacate and hand over the facility by April 1st, 2022.
What the mover of the motion have said, he has given us one side of the story. And it is not for us now at this point to stop the process of what they are doing, but to rather investigate. Even if we are able to stop, it's for us to investigate and report back to the House.
The point of emphasis here is procedure. The procedure has not been adhered to.
The motion from Ibrahim Al-Mustafa urging authorities to take measures towards curbing incessant security breaches in parts of Sokoto State was adopted.
Bill and act are some of the most commonly used terms in the parliament. Is there a relationship between the two? How do they differ? We went to the chairman, House Committee on Rules and Business, Abubakar Fulata, to get an explanation.
A bill is the proposal. Normally, whenever an individual or the government wants to enact a law, it normally brings it to the House, to the Parliament, in form of a bill. As long as it has not been passed and assented to, it is called a bill. So you can amend, you can do a lot of insertions, you can remove, you can subtract, you can add. By the time the bill goes through first reading, second reading, third reading, and is assented to by Mr. President, then it becomes an act. One is a proposal, the other one is now a formal, is now a law. So
It's a bill in as much as it has not been, it has not gone through the mills, it has not been assented to. But once it is assented to, it has become an act.
There is a new electoral act in place. That's no longer news. The president, however, expressed reservations about Section 84, subsection 12 of the new law, which bars political appointees from voting or being voted for in political parties' congresses and conventions. He therefore demanded an immediate amendment of the bill for the purpose of deleting the section, which he says is unconstitutional. Now, while the request has suffered a setback in the Senate, what is its status in the House of Representatives? We spoke with the leader of the House, Alhassan Ado Doguwa, on the subject.
The president has some issues or concern about Section 180 and some other relevant sections associated to it. It has to do with the issue of allowing appointees at the state level, commissioners, advisors, secretary to the government of the states, and also federal appointees by way of ministers, secretary to the federal government. Those people you may call appointed members of the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the center and at the subnational. That by the provision of what the law says at the moment, because it's already a law, because he has assented to it, existing law, and must have to be obeyed or except it's been reviewed otherwise, that whoever holds a political appointment, either at the state or at the federal level, and would want to go for an elected position, should have to first of all resign his appointment and join the rest. Reason being that this is an appointed position given to you by way of discretion, the discretion of Mr. President. Is different from an elected person occupying an office like my own, being an elected member of the House of Representatives. Different also from an office of the state governor, elected governor, or elected deputy governor, or elected president, which of course by the normal procedure, the normal tradition, world over, any elected officer wanting to go for another elected office does not have to resign his position because he's holding the mandate of the people. But for us in Nigeria, it used to be different, and we want to now put it clear that in our legal framework that will govern the operations of our electoral procedure or process, every appointed person, a commissioner, permanent secretary, or whoever, what you call secretary to the government, should first of all resign his appointment and join the race. Because certainly, you see, election is like a business. Business in the sense that you must have to have some risk. In every business, there is a risk to take. If you want to go for an election out of an office where you are appointed, you must have to pay for some risk. So the risk of you leaving an appointment to now come and run in an elective position is for you to resign 3 months or 60 days to the election, primary election. And that is what Mr. President thinks that we should look at and review. My fear is that there is this global standard. It might not be a law, but there is this global standard, this global practice, this global protocol that no country should contemplate tinkering or reviewing its legislative framework to do the elections while you are already into the year of election. 360 days to election, and in our own case, we have less than 5 months to primary election. I think trying to tinker or review the electoral framework where you will have only 3-4 months away from election will amount to like a breach of this protocol. That is just my fear. This is my personal opinion. We always want to make sure that we sustain a very good working relationship with Mr. President. Whatever he brings that is reasonably acceptable, we will accept and give it back to him so that the system will work efficiently and very effectively. But when it brings something that will now be at far or at variance with best practices, world best practices, then I believe the institution will look at that again. I think at the end we should be able to talk to ourselves between the National Assembly and Mr. President so that at the end we'll come up with an excellent piece that cannot be faulted by any other system outside Nigeria. The interest or the intention is for us also to perfect our procedures of election so that at the end, Nigeria can be able to compete shoulder to shoulder by the so-called developed democracies.
Following the resolution of the House of Representatives to investigate the Nigeria Railway Corporation amid allegations of inefficiency, we went to the streets of Abuja to sample opinion on the people's train experience. Take a look.
For now, it's costly because everybody is going for train because the road is bad, then security-wise, so everybody is going for train. It's very expensive for now.
I've heard of people complaining, but for me, it has been a fantastic journey. I mean, for 1 second, the third time that I've used the train, it has been just a straight journey you do to Rigasa without any much of trouble.
I'm comfortable in the train than motor. Even the way motor speed, train cannot speed in that way. So it makes my life settle.
My first experience, it was very interesting because it was very comfortable. I never knew that the train system has upgraded to that level. And in terms of the cost, it's very cheap.
It's cheaper, very convenient, it's secure. You know, you don't even think of any security or you are not thinking of any accident or anything like that. And you sit down comfortably.
Since the train started, it has been very peaceful and my experience over there is cheap and it's fast. Now we have 2 trains running the road, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. So to my experience, I think it's the greatest things that we are using the transport right now because most people are using more of the train than vehicles in my state, in Delta State.
If Nigeria government can actually be able to do more as regards to train, I think most of the transportation issues we are having here will be reduced.
This week on You and Your Reps, we examine activities of the House Committee on the Navy. We engaged Chairman of the committee, Yusuf Gagdi, who represents the Pangshin Kanam, Kanke Federal Constituency of Plateau State.
First, in discharging our primary responsibility of making laws for peace, order, and good governance, the Committee on Navy have done its best by coming up with more than 6 legislation that is aimed at improving the capacity of the Nigerian Navy, that if implemented, it will go a long way equally in strengthening the Navy to protect our waterways and protect our national assets in times of pipeline vandalization, in times of piracy, and whatever. What are these laws? Navy have a university called Admiralty University that is run through PPP program, partnership with government and private sector. I initiated a legal framework that will legitimize the university, a legal framework that will establish the university, a legal framework that will make the university Nigerian own university. And I think it has passed through second reading, awaiting report of the Committee on Navy and Tertiary Institution to be submitted. so that the National Assembly could pass that legislation that will strengthen that institution. The importance of that institution is to ensure that training and retraining of personnel, including Nigerians who are willing to learn naval-related courses in that university. We have come up with hydrographic agency. And what is the important? That hydrographic agency is equally a bill sponsored by myself, just like the Admiralty University. And again, the members of the Committee on Navy supported me. The bill was passed sometime last year by both two chambers of the National Assembly. It is with the President awaiting assent. And by the special grace of God, today or tomorrow, the bill is going to be assented to. What is the importance of the hydrography agency? It means we will have a hydrographer of the Federation who is going to be a naval personnel. Why do we choose a naval personnel to be a hydrographer of the Federation? We have seen bills, related agencies in other developed and developing countries who superintend over the agency are naval personnel. And why? Because just like the work of Surveyor General, who surveys land, the hydrographer surveys the water, Nigerian water, to give nautical information, to show reefs, where reefs are positioned, to equally show where ships will pass that will avoid wreck, spoiling those platforms. And it will equally boost the economy by providing the enablement for business within the waterways. That is the importance of hydrographic agency, and equally to represent this country in hydrographic related activities across the globe. Again, there are other things that are done in form of other legislation, like adjusting NIMASA law, amending it to be friendly to Navy, to be friendly to NIMASA itself, which was passed. It is in the Senate, and it is expected that that equally law is going to be passed. We have passed the Maritime Security Trust Fund, where that trust fund is expected to survive for 8 years, to generate money to the Nigerian Navy as a result of maritime-related business activities, that it should be the source of fund. So that at the end of the day, if this is done, platforms such as capital ships, warships, hydrographic survey ships, tugs, boats, other vessels, including latest technology that Navy require to be able to ensure that production of crude oil is sustained without any attacks on our own assets. Navy need those capital intensive platforms. The only way to address such problem is establishing a platform, a maritime security trust fund that will generate funds for some certain moment to Navy to enable them acquire those ones. Those bills too have been passed by the two chambers of the National Assembly. One of the clouds that we have conflict with the Senate, a conference committee had been put in place, chaired by myself, and we have sorted out. The House of Reps have passed its own version. We are waiting for the Senate today to pass its version so that that bill can be communicated to Mr. President for assent. We have visited in 2019, 2020, and 2021 all naval formations and commands across the Federation to see what they have been doing with the allocation that is being allocated to them, to equally see whether in terms of their personnel management, whether there is improvement. We have done that to checkmate them. This money, taxpayers' money that is being allocated to Navy, have they been justifying that money in doing what they have asked to do with the money? Naval Committee have done that. We visited Lagos, we visited Port Harcourt, we visited Kogi, we visited Benue, we visited Kaduna, we visited Cross River, Calabar, all the naval bases for commands and commissions, including Delta. We have gone to such locations to interface with the strategic commands at that level, and that have put Navy in its own tools. But in discharging those functions too, we've seen them doing well, and we've commended them. Allocating funds to those agencies. If you look at the consistent insecurity problem bedeviling this country that is above description, and how best you can support the armed forces in discharging their responsibility. That is the most difficult thing. These are the people that lose bullets on daily basis. They feed on daily basis. They lose strong platforms that are fighting. As they fight insurgents fight them. As they fight bandit fight them. They have human casualty and they have material casualties. And those things need to be reinforced in times of recruitment. As they grow, as we lose them, you need to recruit more. How do you provide funds to enable expansion of barracks, accommodations, making logistic preparation in terms of their salaries, wages, and allowances? As you recruit, you need to expand the barracks, the accommodation. Most of the personnel of the Nigerian Army, Navy, Air Force are staying in private apartments now, simply because the barracks are not sufficient for them to. These are some of the constraints.
Indeed, so much done, yet so much left to do. And ours is to wish the House Committee on the Navy the very best in its engagements. And that's been you and your reps. Thanks for your time. I am Victor Azo. I'll see you next time.